Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And that big tech war against humanity is spreading like wildfire. And guess who the losers are going to be? Yeah, big tech. YouTube, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anyone else who decides to take on our freedom of speech. And there's a bit of a twist to the story with this one, and I have talked about this in the past, but the battle between Australia and Google has intensified in the last few days. This is the story. Australia hits back at Google. Facebook. It's inevitable. You'll soon pay for hosting Australian news. And then it goes on to say, neither side is backing down after weeks of standoff between the Australian government and Google over proposed legislation aimed at better compensation and rewarding local news publishers while bringing greater transparency to the way algorithms employed by Google, Facebook, and YouTube work. Now, what I'm gathering from this is that if you take my main Loving Life YouTube channel, which has been basically demonetized by Google because they don't like the types of videos I put up there. I know that's not censorship, but I don't know what else you call it. But anyway, what this means in effect is that I can actually, as a news presenter on YouTube, I can actually demand that they pay me directly for any content that I put up on YouTube, and most certainly on Loving Life TV. But we're going to follow this one, and I'll work this out with a couple of people within our subscribers who know more about this. Let's continue. Canberra is now finalizing the bill which will require Google to obtain licenses for all content published by Australian news companies. Google's parent company, Alphabet Inc., oversees an estimated at least 94% of all search traffic in Australia, similar to many other countries globally. At a time, it's coming under increasing accusations of using its monopoly power to bully content providers and smaller competitors. Now, this is what I do like about Australia. Look, I know the politicians here are just as bad as anywhere else in the world, but at least they got balls. You know, the Australian politicians have literally taken on China about the China virus, and they're demanding an inquiry as to its origins, which of course China is trying to prevent happening for obvious reasons. And because of that, there's been this new trade war between China and Australia. And China's trying to make life very uncomfortable for various parts of Australia's commercial aspect, because they're putting huge tariffs on different products. But Australia's federal treasurer and deputy leader of the Liberal Party, Josh Frydenberg, said on Sunday that it's inevitable that the Silicon Valley tech giants will be paying to use and present Australian content on their platforms and in search engines. He said, "My view is that it is inevitable that the digital giants will be paying for original content." He said this just 2 days after Google threatened to pull its search engine from Australia altogether. This is as Canberra is now reportedly finalizing the controversial legislation. Well, it's only controversial because it's going to hurt the bottom line of big tech. And I, for one, don't have an issue with that. I have to tell you, I'm going to tell you a story. Last year, about this time, Google demonetized the main Loving Life channel. Okay, they took the ads down because they didn't like the content I was putting up there. They called it hate speech, etc., etc., etc. Now, they demonetized it on about the middle of the month. Let's say middle of March. And on the 21st of March, I was supposed to get a payment from Google for ad revenue raised during the period of that month. You know what I got from Google? Zip. They kept it all. They kept it all. And, this is how they operate. They're like Scrooge. They steal, they take, and then they squeal like stuck pigs when someone actually says, well, we're going to take a piece of your revenue. Anyway, let's continue. It seems that digital giants did themselves a big disservice last week when they very openly and publicly threatened the Australian public with pulling out of Australia, effectively with search, if legislation proceeds as it currently stands, Frydenberg said. He further posed the question of humbling Google and Facebook's unrivaled and extraordinary power. He said, my view is that it is inevitable that the digital giants will be paying for original content, and the choice for Australia is, are we world leaders and first off the rank when it comes to putting in place such a code? Or we can follow others further down the track when they do it. Now, I think Australia, quite honestly, I do. I think Australia should just basically ban Google from Australia. Just say, get the hell out of here. We can use startpage.com. We don't depend on you. You are just censoring people. You're shadow banning pages. You're giving community strikes on YouTube. You guys are just, it's like communist Russia. That's what it's like. This is not a free platform. This is a controlled platform. Anyway, let's continue. Google precisely wants to avoid the precedent of regulators backed up by an influential government winning this fight. No doubt many more governments, especially in Europe, would follow. On Friday, at a Senate hearing on the matter, Google Australia Managing Director Mel Silver told lawmakers, if this version of the code were to become law, it would give us no real choice but to stop making Google search available in Australia. Well, you know what you can do, Miss Silver? You can take your friggin' Google, and you know what's coming, don't you? I think everybody does. You can go and pog my horn, okay, Miss Silver? Anyway, let's continue. On Friday, the pair escalated the dispute by threatening to remove the Google search engine from Australia and Facebook to remove news from the Facebook feeds of all Australian users. The threats follow the revelation that Google has been experimenting with hiding some of Australian news sites from search results in a move media outlets said was a show of extraordinary power. Get that? This is a war. It's an information war that we're facing right now. And Google are the aggressors. They're the ones censoring us. Days ago, Bloomberg cited tech analyst Johan Liedberg, an associate professor at Melbourne's Monash University, who pointed out it's about control and power. He added that Google is seeking to make an example in Australia. They're signaling to the regulators they'll have a fight on their hands if they do this. Well, I've got a better idea for the Australian government, and this money would go not to the big tech company, it would go to the Australian revenue. You know that Google earns $4 billion a year from Australia. It's actual search engines, YouTube, etc. $4 billion a year from Australia. You know how much tax they pay? They pay $48 million a year in tax. You know what that works out at? About 1.2% of the revenue they earn from Australia. That is absolutely outrageous. What the Australian government should do, in my opinion, is say, look, you're raising huge amounts of revenue from Australia. 50% flat tax, $2 billion into our coffers. Then watch Google jump. Because if we set that precedent when it comes to paying your fair share of tax, my gosh, wow. Imagine if that happened all over the world. Google wouldn't be this highly priced share anymore. It would come down to earth with a bang. And it's about time it did. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there before the snowflakes come out, so start sniffing around. Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe. Bye for now.